Welcome to our 7th public hearing of the New York City Charter Commission and our 2nd of 3 hearings in the great borough of Queens. We are officially starting our 2nd round of public hearings, and we are looking forward to hearing from New Yorkers. On Monday, we released the Commission's preliminary report, which contains the staff recommendations to the commissioners based off of what we heard during the first round of hearings, what we saw in written testimony, and suggestion from elected officials and leaders of city agencies. So let me just say thank you again for being here. I'm Carlo Shasura, and I'm honored to chair the Revision Commission. We are joined by several of our commissioners, Kyle Bragg, Lorraine Grillo, Jackie Rowe Adams, and Christopher Lynch. I'm just going to ask you all to say a quick hello. Commissioner Bragg, would you like to start?
Thank you. Well, thank you. I'm happy to be back in my borough, my home borough of Queens, and look forward to hearing the testimony from my fellow citizens.
Lorraine Grillo, we're happy to be back in your home.
That's
How many
right.
years did you spend here?
25 years.
25 years.
5 years in this building, both agencies.
Just speak, yeah.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
No, you're gonna have to
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
Okay. All right. I just want to say it's great to be home. And I'm really anxious to hear everybody's point of view and some suggestions. And believe me when I tell you that we are taking every suggestion seriously. And hopefully, I'm sorry, it's not working. Yeah. Anyway, great to be here. Let's get started.
Thank you very much. Jackie Rowe Adams.
Hello, could you, yes, I think y'all could hear me, right? Okay. So good evening, Queens. We're here in heart of Queens. I am honored to sit here with you because it gives me as a commission an opportunity to hear you share tonight of some of your concerns that's going on in our wonderful city and in our communities, and give you a chance to have a voice to be heard, and for the commission to hear what you have to say and some of your concerns. And so I look forward to it. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Lynch.
Good evening, Queens residents. Thank you for having us here this evening. We're looking forward to your testimony this evening, and hopefully we gain some insightful information that will help us with the commission and bring in your ideas to the forefront. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner McGraw.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Happy to be here in Queens. We're very happy to see that everyone is here. My name is Stephanie McGraw. We're here to hear your concerns and here to see what we can do to make this city workable for every citizen here in New York City, because it is one of the greatest cities in the world. And that's why we're here, because we're concerned about what you want to see in this city to make it a better working place for all of us as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And our Vice Chair, Dr. Hazel Dukes.
Good afternoon. I join with my colleagues, thanking all of you who are members of the 5 boroughs to come out and let your voices be heard. I want to thank Mayor Adams again for, whether it's short time or long time, for giving you, the citizens of New York, a chance to be heard. There is known different parts in government, and we recognize that. But once a mayor is elected for this city of New York, any mayor, they should have the right to appoint their appointees without anyone else but him and his team, going over their background and seeing do they fit in their area, and for service to be rendered. I live in Harlem. I have a school across the street from me. I'm concerned about the garbage being spreaded all over my sidewalk. And I've called 311, just like you're supposed to do, and make a complaint. The mayor cannot do everything. We as citizens want to make this city greater. We have to work within the system. Thank you again for this beautiful afternoon. You're sitting inside and not at the beach.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Chair. We're going to talk about our preliminary report and hear from our executive director in just a moment, but we've been joined by Councilmember Robert Holden, and I know it's a busy time of year, so I'm going to put you up before we get moving.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Thank you, by the way, for all that you do, volunteering for this. It's the same faces, actually, which I love seeing. But again, thank you for doing this. And good afternoon, and Chairman and members of the commission. I'm Councilmember Robert Holden, represent 30th Council District, which includes Maspeth, Middle Village, parts of Glendale, Ridgewood, Rego Park, Elmhurst, not too far from here. I'm here because this commission has the power to address significant issues that New Yorkers care about through their, though their voices are not always heard in City Hall. I urge the commission to consider including the repeal of sanctuary city laws on the ballot. Let's get the voters to finally vote on this, because we have been attacked on 9/11. You know that. We have been. And why do we create ICE and Department of Homeland Security? But also, there's also crime. And sanctuary city laws protect criminals. And I'll explain why. The recent shooting of 2 NYPD officers by a Venezuelan migrant is a stark reminder of the consequences of our current sanctuary city policies. This tragic incident highlights concerns that I've been raising for several years. Our city is seeing illegal migrants, some of them living in shelters at our expense, receiving free services and then committing crimes. We can no longer afford to import criminals, nor can we continue to protect them from ICE. Again, why did we create ICE? It's so that we can communicate. We're not doing that. Ken Gianalo, the field director for ICE, New York City's office, has repeatedly highlighted the detrimental impact of city policies that prevent local authorities from cooperating with ICE. My colleagues and I in the Common Sense Caucus have heard firsthand the horror stories of criminals with detainers issued against them who are shielded by laws preventing the NYPD, Department of Corrections, and Probation from honoring those detainers. Doesn't make any sense. This cannot continue. We owe it to our residents and our police officers to end this madness. Thomas Decker, former field office director of ERO New York, stated, "I don't know what it will take for representatives of New York City to see that keeping their sanctuary city policies are dangerous to the residents of this great city, and in some cases deadly." We've learned those lessons. Their policies continue to shield criminal aliens, allowing them to seek refuge in New York City communities and allowing them to continue to break laws of this country, which threaten the lives and safety of our citizens. At some point, the lives and safety of residents of New York City have to matter over the agendas of the politicians. Considering how open borders are, how our borders are open now, it is alarming that 8 ISIS-K terrorists were recently caught planning attacks in major cities. And today, media reports revealed that DHS identified 400 migrants smuggled into our country by ISIS affiliates. A recent report from the DHS Office of Inspector General reveals that DHS is not doing enough to screen and vet asylum seekers, non-citizens, at the point of entry. Customs and Border Protection personnel admitted to OIG that they often resort to half measures due to the traffic volume, staffing, and facility constraints, enforcement concerns, and significant cross-border events. So they're trying to move traffic. They're not checking the cars, believe it or not. And that's the report. The report starkly concludes DHS will remain at risk of admitting dangerous persons to the country or enabling asylum seekers who may pose significant threats to public safety and national security to continue to reside in the U.S. I ask you why. We cannot continue to import criminals or shield them. Our city agencies must be able to work with federal law enforcement and weed out national security threats. We owe it to our residents, by the way. And I would also to advocate for some of the proposals mentioned in your preliminary report from this week. I agree with the staff recommendations to require a fiscal impact statement whenever city council legislation is passed that creates an unfunded mandate. I think everybody would agree. We have to do the finances. Unfortunately, some elected officials in Albany and in the city do not consider the bigger picture and advocate for proposals while well-intentioned severely impact our city budget. I also agree with the staff's recommendation about soliciting more community feedback, specifically on legislation that impacts public safety. Council committee hearings often occur, as you know, during work hours when much of the public is occupied and cannot testify. Typically, the only people that show up are the paid advocates who can attend these hearings, stacking the deck against the public. And I support the 3 recommendations that would enhance the process of pertaining to public safety, strengthen opportunities for input by members of the public, and revise the city charter or revise the charter to better promote public safety. The How Many Stops Act, which I voted against, is just one public safety related bill passed over the years that puts the public in danger. The commission should also look at revising this charter concerning this. Last but certainly not least, the commission should consider expanding the legal mandate for the New York City Department of Sanitation to be able to, 1, clean all areas owned by the city. Right? Unbelievable, they can't at this point. Enforce sanitation laws in all areas of the city. Agencies like DOT, DCAS, and parks often do not maintain their own properties. So my office is stuck between a rock and a hard place sometimes. The office regularly reaches out to Department of Sanitation to take care of these areas, and we're told that technically they're not allowed to maintain properties like overpasses and underpasses and areas near parks. We have a DOT overpass that we can't clean. DOT has to clean it, and that takes forever. Why can't sanitation do it? Makes no sense. Changing the charter to give the Department of Sanitation more authority is a great idea, and I certainly endorse that. I think most people with common sense would, and I thank you for your time, and I appreciate, again, your volunteer work, and you guys are great. Thanks so much for listening.
Thank you, and we're happy to be in your home borough tonight. Yes. Do any of the commissioners have any comments or questions for the councilman? Yes, Kyle. And if I could just ask, when you speak, go right into the mic because we're having trouble hearing.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yep.
Hard to hear you now.
Councilman, oh, there we go.
There you go.
Thank you
Yep,
for your
right at the
testimony,
mic.
Councilman. I have one question on the sanctuary city. I assume that through your testimony, you're looking for the charter revision to put forth a ballot initiative that repeals sanctuary city.
Or,
So-
you know, again, at least it could say, and the people can vote. So whatever they vote, we should listen.
So I guess, forgive my ignorance, I'm not a politician nor a lawyer, but I was asking, but I'd like to know, is this something that the city council cannot legislate?
Well, again, the city council can legislate it, but they won't. So I think let's put it to the people, because the representatives, again, and the advocates will come out. In my testimony, I said they hold the hearings during the day when most people can't make it.
I see.
Working people
And,
can't.
and have you submitted anything to the council
Well,
to try to move them?
I do have a bill to repeal those, there's about 4 sanctuary city laws.
Mhm.
And I attended one where Mayor Bloomberg was signing it to not have ICE work with NYPD. Right now, there are 2 million people on the terror watch list. You know that, worldwide, 2 million. All right. I asked NYPD at a hearing, do you go over, you have like photo recognition, and you can identify if somebody gets over the border or gets arrested in New York City. They said, we can't work with ICE.
Thank you.
You were here at 9/11. You know that the reason why we created those agencies is to communicate. Where we cut them off. That is insanity. And again, we're gonna get a 9/11. You know, all the reports of 400 people that got through, they're on that watch list. 400. They know them.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me also thank DDC Commissioner Tom Foley for hosting us today. I know he was here a few minutes ago. We thank him for his service. So before we turn it over to the members of the public, we are going to briefly discuss the preliminary report and hear from our Executive Director, Diane Savino, and then vote on a resolution to accept the report. So let me just make a couple of points very clear. The report that all the commissioners received a few days ago, and it's a preliminary report. We discussed it on Monday. It basically discusses the testimony that we have received from the public, from elected officials, from leaders and experts, and includes recommendations on proposals that the staff believes we should pay particular attention to moving forward. The recommendations are based on feedback from the public, city agencies, elected officials, and testimony that we have heard, we have read, we have seen. I want to remind my fellow commissioners of something critical. The report is not binding on us. It is staff recommendations. It is preliminary, and the work doesn't stop tonight. So you're still going to be busy for about another month. We will continue to solicit testimony, excuse me, from the public and to consider new proposals over the coming months. If we vote to accept the report this evening, it does not mean, and let me be clear to the commissioners, that the recommendations that are in the report today are what will appear in the ballot. Now, they may, but we acknowledge the report and we agree to take the recommendations under considerations as we move forward. So it's really the start of the next part of the process. So with that, let me ask our Executive Director, Diane Savino, to provide a brief summary of the report. Executive Director.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Chair Shusora and the Charter Revision Commission. And again, we want to thank DDC Commissioner Tom Foley for hosting us here this evening. So I want to do a brief discussion of the preliminary report, which was released earlier this week, shared with the members of the commission and the members of the public, and kind of go over it and summarize the proposals that have been presented by the staff in consultation with senior leadership and members of the commission. The proposals have been spread across 4 sections. They are detailed, substantive, and wide-ranging. The first 2 concern fiscal responsibility and public safety, the 2 subjects that the mayor tasked the commission with focusing on. The report also includes additional ideas that the staff believes will benefit New Yorkers and underscore the thoughtfulness by which the staff reviewed the charter. This includes establishing the MWBE office as a separate agency. The report also recommends several nuanced ideas to fix technical details that will make the city work better. The last section of the report covers ideas raised during the hearings that staff thinks future commissions should consider. Before discussing the recommendations, note that the preliminary staff report contains broader recommendations to the commission. It does not, thank you, it does not include the detailed language for the charter. These recommendations are guidance for the commission to review. They are not binding on the commission, and the commission should thoughtfully consider the staff recommendations. So let's start with the first section, which is covering fiscal responsibility. The overarching goal of this section is to modify the charter to provide more accurate and transparent cost information to New Yorkers about proposed legislation. You heard Councilman Holden talk about the challenges of determining fiscal impact statements of legislation that is proposed by the council. There are three main proposals that have been put forward to enhance fiscal responsibility. First, require fiscal impact statements to be published earlier in the legislative process. The city council is required currently to publish fiscal impact statements for legislation. This is often done right before the legislation is voted on without opportunity for members of the public or the council themselves to consider the financial implications. We are recommending that the charter include language requiring that legislation have accurate fiscal impact summaries and that they are shared with sufficient time for council members and the public to consider. The second recommendation is to update provisions concerning capital planning. The city puts out a 10-year capital strategy highlighting our infrastructure investments. This strategy is not mentioned in the charter. The staff proposes explicitly mentioning the 10-year capital strategy in the charter and sharing some of the considerations that go into capital planning. This recommendation was made by and is publicly supported by the comptroller. Third, the staff suggests specific modernization proposals for the budget process, such as changing charter language that requires paper documents. The next section concerns public safety. We've heard so much testimony regarding public safety. As you are all aware, public safety hearing had nearly 100 people attend virtually and in person, with 35 people testifying. Here, the staff is recommending enhancing the deliberative process for legislation pertaining to public safety. Specifically, we are recommending a specified additional limited time frame for public review unique for public safety bills. During this period, there will be at least one public hearing on the bill and participation from all 5 boroughs. We believe this recommendation nicely combines the need for critical public review of public safety legislation while ensuring that urgent legislation does not get held up. The next area we're looking at is MWBEs. This next staff recommendation concerns minority and women-owned businesses. Specifically, the staff recommendation is to explore establishing an agency for minority and women-owned businesses. Currently, there is no single department or agency that has exclusive authority for rulemaking or primary responsibility for outreach, monitoring, or reporting. This will create a single touch point for MWBEs and further demonstrate commitment to supporting their utilization. In the area of government modernization, the last section is modernizing the charter with several fairly nuanced charter revisions that just make sense. The first places the authority to issue film permits within the Office of Media and Entertainment, which currently does not have it explicitly according to charter language, despite fulfilling that responsibility. The second involves removing the surety bond requirement for elected officials and other senior public officials. The charter and administrative code require certain officials, such as the comptroller, the commissioner of finance, and the corporation counsel, to take out a bond to protect against financial malfeasance. This is from an antiquated time when officials such as Mayor Walker, remember him, Jimmy Walker, could easily steal public money. Obviously, times have changed. There is no big buckets of money in City Hall that people could make off with. So it's time to update that outdated requirement. And it's even more nonsensical because the city covers the cost of the bonds. We propose removing this requirement from most officials. The third involves transferring the authority for waterfront permitting from the small business services to the Department of Buildings. This is a recommendation from the Get Stuff Built report to make building faster. The fourth expands DSNY's, the Sanitation Department's authority to clean within the city. Specifically, it allows sanitation to clean any city-owned property at the mayor's authorization and enables them to enforce illegal dumping and street vending in more locations around the city. Again, we heard Council Member Holden talk about how silly it is that DSNY cannot clean property in the city if it's managed by DOT. For example, the charter does not give clear authority to DSNY to clean no man's lands, areas that past administrations put under the jurisdiction of another city agency without dedicated cleanliness resources, such as on-off ramps or center medians. This will provide the mayor greater flexibility to keep our city clean. The fifth recommendation involves combining 2 duplicative boards into one. Surprisingly, the charter in separate chapters in the past establishes both an archival review board and an archives reference and research advisory board with overlapping mandates. Because it is required by the charter, we must have separate meetings and minutes, taking up staff time and resources. We propose combining them into one body. The last recommendation is to include a charter requirement that the city periodically collect direct resident feedback on critical issues. This, for example, could be done with a survey. Thank you for your time and consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone may have on this. But remember, this is the preliminary report with recommendations. It is not binding. It is a work in progress. We look forward to the continuing hearings that we will have and the testimony that we hope to get from members of the public as we move forward to complete our work and put forward questions on the ballot for this November. Thank you.
Ready of the commissioners?
No. Thank you.
Okay, do any of the commissioners have any comments before I call for a vote? Yes, Vice Chair Dukes.
I would like to really applaud the staff for, I read the report that we received on Monday night. I'm not reading, but I was listening very carefully. I want to commend you for what we have before us.
Thank you, and I would second that commendation to the staff. All of the folks that are involved, having been on 3 charter commissions now, I can tell you that while we're taking a lot of time and going to meetings, and I spend a chunk of my day now speaking to this gentleman at my left and the young lady to my right, it pales in comparison to the work that the team is doing. So thank you very much. So with that, let me recommend that the commission accept the report as prepared, and I would move a resolution number 4, a resolution of the Charter Revision Commission to accept the preliminary report and staff recommendations. Is there a second to this? Lorraine Grillo, second. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. I assume you have the numbers. Thank you very much. Now we will, and I would just add one thing. I have asked the staff to look at community board modifications based on some testimony we received, and also to just focus a little bit more on some of the fiscal issues. So I know that we will continue to do that work. Okay, so I'm going to skip all of my remarks because I think we get it why we are here. Our 7th public meeting. We're looking at the entire charter. We will continue to travel the boroughs. We will be in Brooklyn tomorrow, and then we'll take a couple of days off, 4th of July week, and then back to work the week after, and the week after, and the week after. So we welcome members of the public to comment in person and also on Zoom, which is something exciting, to submit testimony, and we will take it from there. As I said, we will carefully consider the staff recommendations. And if you have not read it, please read the report. It is now on the commission's website. We will be hosting additional meetings. And on Monday, July 22nd, we will be back in Queens at the Queens Public Library Central Library in Jamaica. We have other dates that have been announced. You can check out our website, www.nyc.gov/charter, to see all of the dates, and comments may be submitted in writing to charterinfo@citycharter.nyc.gov between now and July 12th. So let me begin with Magali Austin, also known as Maggie, Executive Deputy Commissioner at DDC.
Thank you so much, Chair Sasura. I'm Magali Austin. I am Executive Deputy Commissioner here at DDC.
Just Maggie, if you can, yeah. That's it.
That's good. Formerly, I served as Senior Advisor to the Mayor and ran the citywide MWBE program. So as you can imagine, I'm here to comment on the proposal to centralize certain functions of the Mayor's Office of MWBE, which I certainly support. I think, you know, when you look at the MWBE program, it's spread across 3 different agencies, Mayor's Office of MWBE, Small Business Services, as well as MOX, and they each have a role. I think most importantly, we need to make sure that we can centralize the compliance aspect. I think that is the weak link of our program. We can award as many contracts to MWBEs as possible. If we're not monitoring for compliance with those awards, there's no way that we're gonna have the economic impact that we would have with a strong program. So I certainly support that, and I hope this is something that happens.
Thank you very much. Maggie, you and I have spoken many, many times on this. I think for anyone who is working in that world, you see where there can be some sharpening of the pencil. So
Oh,
we're taking
absolutely.
it seriously.
And part of the reason that Lorraine was successful at SCA is because she had all those tools.
Exactly. Any comments or question from Miss Austin? Yes.
Hi, good evening. I have a question in regards to that.
Speak right into, yeah.
When you were talking about the 3 different agencies and talking about compliance, 3 different agencies and compliance. So would you say that there's a staffing issue, or what is the actual problem?
Yeah, so there definitely is a staffing issue. I could attest to the fact that the Mayor's Office of MWBEs is very lean for the work that they do. And there's also a staffing issue at the agency level. I'm really lucky at DDC. We have a thriving program and we're fully staffed, thanks in part to Lorraine Grillo. But many agencies don't have the workforce to monitor the contracts that they've awarded.
So how would a separate agency?
So centralizing the compliance function means, and I know we're exploring this, but there are compliance tools available to make sure that we can monitor contracts citywide, and not at the agency level only. Right now, each agency is monitoring their contracts, right?
Right.
If we get a tool that monitors compliance at the city that is available with the Mayor's Office of MWBE, I think it would be a much more efficient process.
Kind of like streamlining the whole process.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Next is Michael Garner, Chief Business Diversity Officer for New York City. Michael, great to see you.
Great seeing you also, Mr. Chairman. And thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak about this very important initiative in which Maggie just indicated, from transforming a MWBE office into an MWBE agencies, which is 1, going to be more cost effective. 2, is going to be centralized, because as we currently speak, you have 3 different operations and there's overlap and there's a lack of transparency and accountability. And so creating a agency which will drive the MWBE program from a centralized focus will benefit the city of New York. Maggie indicated, and I spent 14 years at the MTA as the MTA's first chief diversity officer, 14 years in this very building at the SCA on the 30-30 Thomson Avenue side with Member Grillo. And there was a dedicated focus on funding, equipping, staffing the MWBE operation. And so the SCA and the MTA have two of the best programs in the nation because there was investment. I would tell you that for the first time in history of any mayor, Mayor Eric Adams has put his money behind what he campaigned for. For example, he is the first mayor of any mayor that had the ability to go to Albany, work with our legislative leaders, and get all of our MWBE bills passed in the state law. 1. Second, transforming those bills from bills to state law to MWBE programming. What Maggie just indicated is absolutely correct. there are agencies who are enforcing their MWBE goals by using spreadsheets. The mayor recently has allocated $5.3 million in creating a information technology process and platform, which will allow City Hall and all of the agencies now to monitor not only the contract awards that's been awarded to third-party contractors, but now have the ability to monitor and enforce those MWBE goals almost in real time. And so this platform, which was adopted by the state of New York and by the state of New Jersey, and a lot of the complicated construction organizations across the country, is called B2G. We will make that award next month. And it would take us 9 months to build out this platform. And now, for the first time in history, we will have the ability to monitor contract awards, but most of all, monitor the payments of those contracts. And where there are deficiencies with our third-party contractors and consultants, we have the ability to bring them in and ask for an action plan. And also borrowing a page from the SCA and the MTA, we have the ability to pass a state law, which now is going to allow the city of New York to create a centralized construction mentoring program. And so that will give us the ability and the tool of 10 agencies under one umbrella. We will have the ability to create a more diverse, qualified pool of contractors who will have the ability to finish the city of New York's projects safely, timely, and on budget. And so I'll end by saying that everything that candidate Eric Adams indicated that he was going to do with regard to the MWB program, he has done and even more. And I'm standing here before you as the city of New York's first chief business diversity officer. If I did not have confidence and faith in the mayor, I would have stayed at the MTA. But I came to join him because I believe in what he's doing. And this is an indication of transforming an office into an agency to give transparency, accountability of driving the MWB programs and allowing the city of New York to award their contracts in a cost-effective manner because this taxpayers' money is being spent, but in an inclusive manner. And if there are any barriers to entry that would prevent us from doing that, we now have the ability by changing state laws and policies to ensure that the city of New York has the ability to award their contracts in an inclusive manner. And we have some very long-standing prominent businessmen who are going to testify. But tomorrow in Brooklyn, we will have some business women. And so this is an opportunity for you to hear from the MWBE community. Thank you.
Michael, thank you very much. I can tell you, putting on my work hat for a moment, a lot of these reforms, and really, Lorraine, the SCA started it, to be quite honest, and obviously you were there for it. But the contractor piece that you talked about is a serious game changer for women and minority-owned businesses. And it means jobs, it means security, it means stability, it means payments, and those are important things. It's why I think our general counsel and others have heard me say we have to figure out how to pay folks quickly and with some stability. And that's something I've asked also for us to look at. But thank you. Questions for Mr. Gardner? Commissioner Adams. I was going to say, don't sit down yet, Mike.
Well, first, let me say it's always a pleasure, seeing you and hearing you speak about good stuff. And thank you for your testimony. So, as we heard earlier, your colleague and some of the commissioners was asked a question. So, the commission, what would you like to see us do besides everything and get everything right? What is some of the major things that we, the commission, could help you with?
Well, certainly, in your daily duties and responsibilities at health and hospitals, as a board member, you can continue working with City Hall to ensure that contracts are awarded in a inclusive manner. And this commission, we are hopeful and we are going to advocate for the recommendation to take the concept of MWB as an agency and put it on the ballot in November. And so we can finally support the vision of Mayor Adams in ensuring that the city of New York has the opportunity to award contracts like the SCA, like the MTA, in a inclusive manner, centralize the MWBE focus, ensuring that it's going to be more cost effective because we will eradicate the overlap. And so certainly we will be looking for your support and your recommendation.
Thank you. Commissioner Grillo.
Thank you. I didn't get an opportunity to thank Maggie for all the great work that she does under these difficult circumstances, because it's not easy. I know that for a fact. And I just want to thank you, Michael, for everything you've done along the way. You were there when I got to SCA. You taught me a great deal about the program and how we could make it better. And I think that you, in your experience, have a good handle on how we were able to make payments in weeks rather than months.
Absolutely.
And it really means a great deal for the small businesses, for the MWBE businesses. So I think it can be done. I think with the right people and those people who are committed to this, and even using MTA and SCA as an example and a process. We may have to change some rules. We may have to change some laws to get it done, but I think it can be. So thanks.
Absolutely. And thank you for your support, because it was under your leadership and previous presidential leadership at the SCA that you figured out the calculus of how to build safely, timely, and budget and inclusive of MWBE goals. And the investment that the SCA made into that information tracking system has led to the state and the city now adapting that same best practices. So thank you for your outstanding leadership.
Thank you. Commissioner, yeah.
Thank you, Michael, for your testimony. I glad you clarified for me, because I thought this was an addition to your office, so it's a replacement, actually making an agency of MWBE, which then gives you the power to do the things that you just testified to, which I think is actually a good idea. You know, you're doing a great job now as MWB office, but sometimes you're hamstrung and your hands are tied from being able to go to the depth that is necessary to make sure the MWBEs are get an equitable and fair opportunity here in the city. So thank you for clarifying that. And the agency then will be staffed and budgeted so they can
Yes.
do the type of work that you were just testifying.
Absolutely, in a centralized manner.
That's excellent. Thank you.
Commissioner McGraw.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michael, for your testimony, and thank you for
Speak-
all,
yes, speak
and thank
right
you
in.
for all the great work that you do. I appreciate hearing you and bringing this information to the forefront. Can you just briefly clarify when you say that there's 3 different agencies right now? And what are those 3 different agencies, and how will it work better if everything come under one accord and one umbrella?
So there is an office and 2 agencies.
Mm-hmm.
And the evolution of the city's MWB program. A lot of those services resided in SBS, which we refer to as small business services. Under the Bloomberg administration, the MWB programs, they were housed there. Under the previous administration, the de Blasio administration, he created the Office of MWBE. And then you have the Mayor's Office of Contracts, which is MOX.
Yes.
And
agree
so
with that.
there's overlap of the MWBE program. From a small business services perspective,
Mhm.
that's the agency that's responsible for certifying businesses for the city of New York. And then there's other supportive services that reside on the SBS.
Okay.
MOX has the ability to create policy and ensure that contracts that's being awarded, before they are awarded, ensuring that the MWBE goals are going to be achieved. The office of MWBE, now we are building up, we are getting programming, and we're focusing on enforcement. And so taking a lot of those other services from those two agencies and creating a agency for MWBE will give us the ability, once again, for transparency and accountability and in a more cost-effective and centralized manner, execute the city's MWBE programming, monitoring, enforcement, creating creative, innovative programs like the centralized construction mentoring program, the $1.5 million discretionary bill that we got passed, making sure that agencies are adhering to that. And so once again, it will be centralized and focused and more cost effective and eradicate the overlap.
Yeah. Well, we needed that like yesterday. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Really appreciate that.
Thank you,
So,
Michael.
okay, thank you.
Maya Powell from Councilmember Williams' office.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Maya Powell. I'm an office assistant at Councilmember Natasha Williams' office, and I'm reading this letter on her behalf. I'm seeking your help in improving human and civil rights enforcement within the city of government through a charter revision. The Equal Employment Practices Commission is a vital defender of the essential civil rights, providing indispensable and otherwise unavailable services to the people of New York. However, this agency finds itself perpetually grappling with the limited resources. I seek your assistance in addressing the systemic issue that keeps the employees of New York City from receiving adequate enforcement of the human rights law. This small agency of less than a dozen employees assists 143 of other city entities in ensuring equal employment opportunity within our municipal workforce. The systemic nature of the city's agencies underinvestment, regardless of whose mayor, has caused me to ask this question to look into pegging the operating budget of the EEPC to the personnel budget of the city of New York. By freeing this tiny agency from the politics of budget negotiations, it can enjoy the fiscal responsibility needing to do its work for the people of New York City. Despite its significant responsibilities to over 300,000 New York City employees, EEPC is one of the smallest agencies in New York City. It is also rarely spared from the worst cuts of past budgets, including this one, while also never receiving adequate investments from past administrations in more fiscally insolvent times. This means today, years of disinvestment have had a significant impact on the EEPC's ability to fulfill its charter mandate and the requirements of Local Law 13 related to the underutilization research and reporting. This also impacts their abilities to ensure the city of New York identifies and acts on disparities before they become costly lawsuits. To effectively carry out this mission, the EEPC needs more staff and funding for training to ensure that the EEPC are experts in EEO implementation. The current budget for the EEPC stands at $1.1 million in a city budget upward of $100 billion. As chair of the Civil and Human Rights Committee, I find myself negotiating with the mayor for an additional $800,000 to help this agency meet the needs of the city. It's disheartening to note that the EEPC's current budget is significantly less than what it takes to remove just 1 inch of snow in our city. In a metropolis with over 300,000 employees, the EEPC's role is critical in ensuring that every employee has equal access to opportunities and treatment. Please do not hesitate to contact me at 718-776-3700 or our district email at district27council@council.nyc.gov to discuss this further. Thank you in advance for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Samuel Padilla. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Did you have a question?
I'd just like to ask if they could send a copy of that testimony to us.
Ma'am, can we have a copy. Okay. Samuel Padilla.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
My name is Samuel Padilla,
Padilla.
sometimes pronounced Padilla. I'm a general contractor in the
Yes.
city of New York.
Speak right into the
I'm a
mic,
general
please.
contractor in the city of New York doing city and state work. And I've been a minority contractor for 30 years. However, I've been a minority all my life. All right, as a Puerto Rican, I came in as a minority contractor under Mayor Dinkins. When he started the program, that's when I decided to leave my management position at Con Edison because I wasn't getting promoted. And that created an opportunity for me, which has led me to where I am now. And my job now is keeping my people employed. In some cases, 300 people employed. That's what I do, union shop, 100%. Now, the idea of having a mayoral agency is something that is really should be done and must be done, because right now there are approximately 30 or 40 individual city departments, and then you have so many city agencies, each with their own goals to do things. But and navigating those waters is very difficult for a contract, because at the end of the day, if we had a single source, a single agency under a commissioner with a staff that's able to do these things and be a single point of contact for the part when we have a problem, when we have issues, and that they can look and address across all spectrums. For example, I know, not an example, but having an agency that centralizes accountability for all of the agencies. And I'm not talking one or two, I'm talking 30 individual agencies that are supposed to be compliant with the MWBE goals are doing it individually. And some really comply, some don't comply. There's the answering to someone that's monitoring them and getting their data and evaluating their performance is the way to get things done. It benefits the minority community in a number of ways. Clearly, the MWBE community adds diversity and inclusion and pays taxes. We pay a lot of taxes and we deserve, the minority, black, white, women, they deserve a chance to prosper. And me and you both have to create those opportunities. Me hiring minority subcontractors and you creating opportunities for those contractors to be able to excel, to be able to create generational wealth, because the only way we're going to be economically equal is to have equal opportunity, not a handout, equal opportunity. This isn't a welfare state. A lot of the contractors that we have that are minority contractors are extremely hard workers and deserve this. So now, some points that this mayoral agency would.
We're going
give
to
us.
ask you to keep your
Okay.
comments brief.
Centralizing oversight and accountability, enhancing the coordination and consistency throughout all agencies, improving the efficiency of this entire all 34 of them, focusing on advocacy and support. That will be central with the commissioner and the staff. Data collection and analysis, that was brought up before, getting all the data and then holding people accountable for their actions or what they're doing or not doing. And then clearly increasing the visibility and commitment of the city of New York and all of you as commissioners, saying that you're committed to help us help you, because that's what we do. We're helping you, we're helping us. We increase our viability, we increase the economy, and more importantly, we create opportunities for our children. All right, and all of you are chartered with that responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Rohan DeFritas. Oh, question? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just want to thank you for your, the additional testimony on them, on the, agency once again. Just from reading and seeing that from 2021, you had like a 50% increase up to $6 billion of contracts that has been awarded. So once again, kudos to Mayor Adams as well as to Mr. Gardner there. So you clarified and cleared a lot of questions that I have when I came in this evening in regards to the agency. So my question was about establishing a single agency for that. So I just want to thank you for your testimony that really clarified those questions for me.
Thank you so much, and I want to thank you for your efforts to make this happen for all of us.
Okay. Followed up by Everett Perry after this.
It's actually tough to follow someone like Sam Padilla. He's one of my mentors in this business. Again, my name's Rohan DeFreitas. I represent a firm called Crescent Consulting. We're minority owned, by myself, being African American, and my business partner, Louis Segarra, who's also Hispanic. So we're not just 100% minority owned, we're actually 200% minority. It's a pleasure tonight to be before you because I'm excited to know that this commission's been assembled to look at the city charter, to visit the city charter in many aspects. Even though I'm here tonight to talk about why it's so critical to have a centralized MWBE agency. In my realm of what I do, I get to see and get to interact and get to interface with the contractors that are seeking the opportunities, as well as the end user that's looking for those contractors to take advantage of the opportunities. And it could be a direct agency contract, or it could be a indirect agency contract with the city of New York. And I must say, I gotta give the mayor kudos to the fact that when he invited me to meet with him when he was campaigning, and he asked me about these various types of initiatives that he wanted to implement, this was one of the initiatives that he had mentioned to me. So I've got to give him kudos in the fact that he's actually looking to implement this type of a centralized agency. And like Mike mentioned earlier, and we kind of, in the MWBE community, we kind of call him the godfather of MWBE, even though he probably
I
doesn't
just
want-
call him the Godfather always.
I just don't kiss his ring. I don't
give
kiss
it
his
the
ring.
spiffy dresser, come on.
His ring's not kissable by me, but I don't do it. However, look, a centralized agency brings a lot to the city of New York for expediency's sake, for efficiency's sake. It's going to allow for you to run a more effective agency that can get a lot more results, where other agencies could be leaning on them to get more information, more contractors that are doing well. Because one of the questions that's always raised to me is on the different projects that I'm working on, well, can you tell me of a good contractor that does this? Can you recommend another contractor that does this? The centralized agency will have that type of data that they're maintaining and that they're keeping, so that it could be shared across the board, so that contractors have a lot more opportunities to take advantage of when the opportunities arise. It would also allow for greater innovation. Innovation from the standpoint that Mike mentioned. There's the mentor protege programs. If you're running it on a one agency, there's no need for every agency to have their own mentor protege program, like it's currently being discussed and being looked at right now. Innovation in the sense that financial and bonding and insurance support can be offered to contractors through a centralized agency. Those are things that we need to definitely consider by bringing a centralized agency under one source. Reporting and getting that reports, and as Mike mentioned earlier, the B2G system that's being considered, I'm happy to hear that, because presently on various of the projects that I'm working on, i.e. the JFK International Airport, $19 billion project, we're using the B2G system. Why it's important? You start with your utilization. Utilization gives you what you think you're going to accomplish. But at the end of the day, you can have the greatest and best utilization plan that there is. If contractors are not being paid and are verifying that being paid, which they do through this particular system, and at the end of the day, you marry contract payments with utilization, you're not hitting the goals. Because in the beginning, projects look like they're going to be accomplishing every goal that's set. But if at the end of the day, the results are not, or rubber's not hitting the road from that standpoint, it's not what we want. And having a centralized agency will enable us to be doing and accomplishing those types of things. So I urge you and I applaud you again for looking at the charter. There are other items in that city charter. If you're open to suggestions, I think I can go online and write in my suggestions. There are other things
some
that we need
suggestions.
to look at. And the last thing I will say before I turn the mic over is, let's not always lose focus that minority businesses are good businesses. And minority businesses we can lean on to encourage and stimulate the economic growth of minorities who tend to work for minority businesses. And the more minorities we have working in the construction industry or any industry, it allows for the growth of other minority businesses to be created, because construction companies are created. Sam probably can attest to this because him and his brother probably created the construction. That's how it's created. So the more employment we stimulate among young people in the industry, the more businesses in the long run that we will make in the future.
Agreed.
I thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Any questions or comments? Yes.
First, let me say thank you so much for your testimony, because it's an education. And I must say, for years I've been knowing Michael Gardner, but I also knew that he was with Transit. And then when the mayor came in and now gave him that position, I learned so much about, and sometimes I don't even say the name right. But I've learned so much, and not only for this commission, but for the city and for the communities, because a lot of people don't know. So this is really good, and I'm just glad to be a part of the commission, Mr. Chair, because I am getting an education along with so many others. So thank you, Mayor Adams, for appointing and putting this in motion. And so our community and our city, and this is the whole reason that we are here as a commissioner, to give the community and the city a chance for their voices to be heard, so we could know and they could know what's going on. So thank you for the education. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All of you.
Allowing me to speak.
Yes.
Okay. Everett Perry.
Well, thank you very much. I'm here representing sort of a different, I'm an MWBE contractor.
Just,
currently.
yeah.
I'm an MWBE contractor currently in New York City. I used to be and still am in for another 2 weeks, Lorraine's SCA mentor program. Also I'm still in Michael Gardner's mentor program. And also Sam Padilla has a mentor program specifically for me, and I'm in his mentor program as well. But what I want to do is just talk about numbers and how the MWBE program has been successful for my business. So we started out, my wife and I, in the basement of our house. We went from our first year of government contracts of $50,000 to within 3 years, 8.3 million. Okay. We went from 4 employees to about 120 employees between here and Puerto Rico. This is directly due to working for the city. You can't do this outside of the city. So this was the SCA and this was the MTA program that got us there. Currently, because of all of this, we're doing a $32 million affordable housing project for HPD. So without these programs, without what we're talking about here today, none of this is possible for us.
I just wanted to speak right into the mic,
Sorry.
otherwise no one will hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. So without these programs, none of this is possible for us. One of the things that they're talking about that's important is the payment structure. Recently, we got a payment from MTA in about 3 days. It's down to 3 days now. Okay. The MTA is down to, the SCA is down to 1 day. So by centralizing, putting all of this together, that means the city payments, which we've had city contracts, can go 30 to 45 days, which is better, can potentially go down to like 1 week or so. So the idea is that, I guess what I'm representing is that if everything is put together as you all are looking to do, there's tremendous benefit, tremendous wealth, and a sort of, it helps out all of the MWBE businesses in a way that's almost unimaginable. I know it was for us. Okay. Thank you
Great.
very much.
Thank you. And I had the opportunity to speak at one of your mentoring programs at the SCA, and they're phenomenal. Yeah.
Yes.
Question.
Yes, I don't know if it's a question or comment. I just wanted to say thank you, because we get to hear what Michael Gardner and the rest of the testimonies, and what they're trying to do is bring this to an agency under one umbrella. But to hear your testimony, to hear that you went from getting payment in 3 days and opposed to 45 days
Tremendous.
for a year.
Well, I mean, I've had payments outstanding for over a year
Right,
right now.
right.
But the most recent payment we had one from SCA that comes by check still, that's still 1 week, including the mail. And one came from MTA, literally 3 days. So we put it on a Monday. We got paid on Wednesday.
That's
Great.
excellent. So we need to hear more of this, and I think the city also needs to hear more of this because we get to hear the results of how it's working for you. And
It's
New
working
Yorkers
great.
need to hear that. too.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Great.
If I may, just want to say how proud I am of you, Everett.
you.
We know each other. I've known you from the earliest days, and
Yes.
it's just amazing to see your growth.
you.
Terrific. Congrats.
The rain saved a bunch of contractors a few years. ago.
Yes,
I was
she
one of the
did.
contractors. Some of you know the story is amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Victor Trombetas.
Esteemed Charter Commission members, thank you very much for this opportunity. I will be well within the 3-minute limit.
Thank you.
I am an immigrant and grateful and proud naturalized citizen and Queens resident for 54 years. I'm here to humbly beseech you to put the issue of sanctuary city before we, the people, in a November referendum, so we can decide if we want our historic city to continue to stand in defiance of the will of the people and in defiance of the laws of our beloved nation.
Just
Sadly,
speak right into the mic. Maybe lift it up a little bit. Yeah,
thank you.
good.
Sadly and infuriatingly so, our leaders have failed to ensure the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness of its own people, the people who elected those leaders. In the face of this failure of our representative leadership, we entreat you to put this issue directly before us so that we can make our will known. I kindly remind you that our mayor has stated that this singular policy and issue will destroy our city. I ask that you heed his words and return to us, the people, the ability to fix this. I don't stand here as an immigrant opposed to the changing hue of our people. I stand here as a thankful, naturalized citizen who believes in this rare and precious experiment of individual liberty and the power of the people, and understands how our nation is the singular and greatest experiment in the annals of a violent, miserable, deadly, barely survivable history of humankind. I also believe in a controlled, orderly, legal, documented approach to immigration, which is as necessary as the decision that we all make about who we let into our homes every day and to whom we distribute our charity. It is a ridiculous proposition that we must care for everyone who gets themselves here. Even more outrageous is the fact that we shield criminals from federal enforcement. This incredible city is our home. Please give us the chance to save it. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Joy Amanda.
How you doing tonight?
Good, how are you?
Hey, let's see if I can adjust. I think this is really good, right?
That's perfect.
And I, over the years, learned to project my voice. I used to work in a movie theater, 42nd Street AMC. So I had to manage
Love
like
it.
crowds of millions. So even if I didn't have a mic, I would be able to project my voice. So my name is Joy. I am from South Jamaica, Queens. I've been in Queens for almost 40 years. And over the last 4 years, I became a little more involved with politics, given the extreme changes that happened over the last 4 years, especially in the last 3 years, when, and I'm sure most of you know, a lot of the city workers were terminated due to the unlawful mandates. And I was one of them. I was a DOE teacher for almost 10 years, and I was let go due to my choices, my body, my choice, but that's okay because 3 years later, I was able to obtain my own employment, which now I'm very happy with what I do, but it pushed me to be involved with local politics. I need to know what my public servants are doing because based on Article 4, Section 4 of the US Constitution, it's my job to oversee public servants, which
if a lot of you study the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, New York State Constitution, and the city charter, it is up to the people to be responsible and oversee what our public servants are doing, whether it be the mayor, the comptroller, the public advocate, anyone in city council, our state assembly, Congress, Senate, president, you name it, that's what we're supposed to do. So based on this resolution, which I found out about this last week, and I made the adjustments with work, like Councilman Holden was saying about the public or the people not being able to come out because of work. I made the adjustments. I went to work 5:30 in the morning just so I can have time to be here this evening. Took 2 trains and a bus just to be here, and I'm here. And in that time, I was able to read the recommendations for what is being set forth by this commission. And 2 things stood out for me. And while I was sitting there, I read up on some more. And I also look forward to maybe getting a paper copy. I would like to request it. I know I can download it offline and print it, but I don't have access to a printer, and the library only allots you 40 pages a day, actually 20 pages a day. And it's over 50 something. 2 things that stand out for me: public safety and surety bonds. I would like to know on the record, let me just. Give me 1 minute. So I would like to know on the record in this resolution or recommendations, what is your definition of public? That's question number 1. And number 2, do you understand or know the purpose of the surety bond? And if you do you know that the surety bond is the insurance for the people when our public servants step out of line and we want compensation for their, how we say, mismanagement of funds based on the abuse of their discretion? Now, if we end up removing surety bonds, which surety bonds have been in place for more than 150 years, which based on your information has been since 1872, surety bonds allow for the people to hold our public servants accountable and render compensation. So if that's removed because it is antiquated, then that would mean a lot of what the founding fathers put in place is antiquated because it's not modernized. Yes, we've become a modern society and we've moved forward, we progress, but there are things that are put in place that need to be in place because sometimes you shouldn't reinvent the wheel. If it works, it works. Now, if you do remove surety bonds, which surety bonds, they ensure our comptroller, our mayor, a public advocate, also corporation counsel, which in fact, based on evidence and public record from the city council meeting that I went to, corporation counsel is the one that writes these laws and puts into place what's going on. So I know the commission has been selected by the mayor, Mayor Adams. However, corporation counsel will be the one that has the final say. The group of lawyers that we know are hired by the city to defend the public servants that serve us, whether they're voted in, selected, elected, however you want to choose the narrative. It really doesn't matter to me. So if it is removed, the removal of surety bonds will in turn mean that all public servants will be 100% compliant to their oath. So the first order of business for any public servant is they have to honor their oath. That is their first and only job, which is to uphold the rights of the people of New York. So if we're going to remove surety bonds, which is a concern for me as the overseer of government, which I am, we're then in turn saying that all of our public servants will be 100% compliant to their oath of office, which everyone takes. And I'm not sure if you all take that. I know you were selected to volunteer maybe to do this. And, thank you for wanting to be involved with the local affairs of the community and the people. Removing surety bonds will hurt the people because that takes away our insurance that we have to get compensation when this city mismanages the funds of the people, which whether it's MTA, DOE, all the agencies that take funds for the people, since we are taxed, which we shouldn't be, that's another conversation. That's the purse of the city. That's the people's purse. If a public official steps out of line or a public servant steps out of line with the abuse of discretion, then we can't have any recourse, which based on Constitution, the First Amendment, and in the New York State Constitution, we have the right to redress grievances. The compensation comes from surety bonds. So those are the 2 things that are
Great.
of great concern for me. Public safety should be in the hands of the men and women of the people, which is in the New York State Constitution, and it's up to us to handle our public safety, which we know police are not law enforcement or sheriffs. They're just policy enforcers, which is a problem for people of New York, and surety bonds.
Thank you.
I
You
yield.
you could have this copy. That's my copy and I'm giving it to you. You're welcome. Now. Alex Vega. Oh, yeah, question. Sorry, don't go too far.
Sorry, I had a really quick question.
Hi.
Thank you for your testimony. I just wanted
course.
to ask, did you bring any research about where any instances of where surety bonds have been utilized?
I don't have any evidence for that. I know that, and it's actually in your documents that the Public Officers Law, Section 11 says that all public officers are to obtain a surety bond. Those surety bonds are to protect the people.
No, I
whether it's-
understand your testimony is clear. I just want to know if you had any instances and where it had to be
Oh,
actually utilized.
instances, so.
If not, you can always come back with that, but that's.
I know there was an
that's what you do.
instance outside of New York City. I
Okay.
don't have that information with me, but I know there was an instance outside of New York City where a
Mhm.
bond was pulled.
Mhm.
And when that public servant stepped out of line and their bond was pulled, that public servant stepped down.
Good. I was just trying to figure out what circumstances might have.
Yeah, well, the circumstances would be
Instituted.
whether they violate their oath, whether they overstep their authority,
I get it.
whatever harms the people.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
you.
I'm also from South Queens, so thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
No,
Alex
That's
Vega.
good. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. All right. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So I wanted to sort of repeat what Council Holden said, and the gentleman who was seated here before about sanctuary status, which is something I would like to see everyone recommend to get rid of. Number one, because first of crime, we could use examples like the Casino Park rape that happened in Queens recently. The off-duty cop who had his car stolen by illegal immigrants with machine guns in Harlem. I think that was like a week or two ago. And the rampant Roosevelt Avenue prostitution and the selling of stolen items that you see there. Those are just some examples. Especially Casino Park, just that to me personally is very important because I go to that park. I play basketball at that park. My wife, my daughter, we all go together, in the playground. I go running there. My wife sometimes takes my daughter running there. And so you can imagine having a daughter and hearing that, we have illegal immigrants raping children, how I would feel. I don't know if any of you have daughters, right? But I'm pretty sure that's concerning to you. And so the fact that this sanctuary city thing, right, protects or limits NYPD from being able to communicate with ICE is a problem. And so I assume that everyone is in agreement that if someone is a criminal, they're illegally here, that they should be deported. Continuing with that, also, NYC citizens did not vote, me specifically speaking, for my tax dollars or our tax dollars to be used to house illegal immigrants in hotels, be given free food, be given free cell phones, free Wi-Fi, whatever else that we all know has been in the news. We need to get rid of it because our tax dollars should go towards improving the lives of New York City citizens, meaning legalized citizens, right? My parents came here with a visa, so did my wife, right? And so that is important to me, important to other members of the community, my community. If you're not a legal citizen in the USA, you should not receive our NYC tax dollars, speaking specifically just for New York City. Second part, we need to change the charter so that we're able to hold a recall vote for all elected and appointed officials in New York City government. I don't know if you guys remember when there was a recall vote in California for Governor Newsom. That doesn't exist in NYC or in New York State. So there's no, what's the word? There's no reason.
Mechanism.
Huh? Mechanism, or there's just no reason for, let's say, the mayor, a judge, or anyone to hold their oath to do the right thing, right? Because you can't be removed. Where was I? So I was saying, so that means mayors, judges, NYC Kiddo Council, etc. When elected officials like Mayor Adams, I know some people here support him, I don't. The controller, appointed officials like judges are incompetent, negligent, or just plain bad at their jobs. We, the people, should be able to get a 12% recall vote to remove those people from their office. Bills already exist for this, bills A 4748, so that's, I think, the assembly level. And then there's also the bill S 1437, and that is at the senator level, if I'm not mistaken, that address this. And so I and my other community members have spoken, like today I went to my assemblyman's office, Stephen Raga, but the paperwork in and everything, other people will be going, we'll be making the rounds with the senator to make this law happen at the state level. And all of you here should also push for this change to happen in the charter. Do you have any questions?
Thank you very much. Any questions?
Any questions?
Okay,
All right,
thank you. Claudine Tholat. Tell me your last name.
Pronounced Twilo.
Twila. T,
Twilo.
spell it T.
T-H-U-I-L-O-T. Twilo.
Twilo. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Hello, my name is Claudine Twilo.
Speak right into the mic loud.
Okay, I would also like to reiterate what Mr. Holden said earlier about the referendum of the sanctuary city law on the November ballot. Too many people have come into our country and obviously our city that are not vetted and are here illegally. Another 9/11 terror attack will happen again because we know terrorists are here. Some with terrorist ties have already been apprehended, but many have not. It's obviously that we cannot handle the level of illegal migrants that have come into our city. ICE cannot do its job. Crime is certainly a major problem. Services for our own citizens have been affected, schools, housing, hospitals, just to name a few. We must have this referendum on the ballot. City council representatives don't always reflect what their constituents want, especially as things change during their election cycle. These last 2 years have proven that we are overwhelmed. Many people are not happy with the way our sanctuary city has evolved in actuality and would like to be heard in November. I believe our mayor, Adams, has even expressed his disappointment over the influx of migrants that have and will continue to come into the city and overwhelm us. The status that at one point he was a proponent of. There really should be a referendum on the November ballot and let the people of the city's voices be heard. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? Okay, Joyce Schlapp.
Hi, good evening. I am here today because I am in favor of the referendum that Councilman Holden spoke about on sanctuary city status appearing on the November ballot. It's only fair to let the people of this city vote on this issue because we, the taxpayers, are the ones funding the sanctuary city costs, which are astronomical and come at a cost to our own services and quality of life issues as taxpayers of this city. We have many of our own issues, including the increase in crime, to overcome in this city. Many of our own New Yorkers, our homeless, our veterans, our children, and our elderly are in need of housing, healthcare, and other services that are being given away to illegal migrants as part of our sanctuary city status. Our infrastructure is failing. Our transportation system, our roads, our highways are failing. Our schools are overcrowded and overburdened right now from the influx of illegal migrants into our communities. And the appeal of a sanctuary city only draws more and more to overwhelm our city. The mayor, who initially welcomed the world, has now said we cannot sustain the influx, that this will destroy our once great city. Aside from all these issues, sanctuary cities pose a threat to the national security, not only of our own city, but of our nation as a whole. A nation with an open border and many millions of improperly vetted individuals is a disaster waiting to happen. The perks that our sanctuary city offer attract more and more people every day, and potentially ones who mean harm to us. Also, there have been repeated warnings from the head of the FBI, Christopher Wray, about another impending terror attack on our soil because of our open borders. We must put the question of sanctuary city status to the people of this city, because our elected officials have failed to protect us all from a potential terror attack due to the partisan politics in this city and our country. We must never forget or ever leave ourselves open again to what happened on 9/11. It only took a handful of individuals to hijack 4 planes and kill thousands of people in New York City. New York City is probably the #1 target for terror attacks in the world. Wouldn't it be wise to head off another attack before it devastates this city? If we learn anything, let's all learn from the history of 9/11 and protect our city. And please consider giving the people of this city the power to vote on whether we want to be a sanctuary city or not. It's only fair since we ultimately bear the brunt of the decision that has been made for us without our opinion, without us being asked. We must be able to abide by the laws of our nation's legal immigration system as well. Thank you for your consideration on this issue.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move to Zoom now. Frank Morano.
Thank you very much, commissioners. First, let me begin. Can you hear me okay? Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, let me begin with a few thank yous. First, for Chairman Shasura for directing the staff to look into the community board issue. I think it shows the fact that I mentioned this the other day, and I'm sure others as well, that you're taking the testimony and the suggestions from the public seriously. And I brought this up at my local community board meeting yesterday, and people are really excited about the prospects of seeing some movement in terms of reshaping the role of community boards in the city, particularly given the work that the 2017 commission did, or 2018 commission, which a lot of folks view as a bit of a step back. So thank you. I also want to thank the staff for putting together a terrific preliminary staff report in terms of substance and in terms of the sheer number of issues addressed. The fact that they were able to put this together in such a short time frame, and it's so thoroughly researched and footnoted, I think is a testament to what happens when you put Staten Islanders in such key positions of influence. And I hope every city agency takes note.
And I would say a bound beautiful copy as well.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. I'm not sure that we can credit the Staten Islanders for the binding, but I'm happy to do so. The one thing that I want to reiterate is what Executive Director Diane Savino, a tremendous public servant for the last 2 decades, had said, which is that while these are terrific, many of them, they're just recommendations, and that ultimately the ball, the buck stops with you. You were selected, all of you, for this commission for a reason. The mayor selected you because of your judgment, because of your experience, because of your ability to listen, because of your ability to think analytically, because of the perspective that you're bringing to this. Now, I know Chairman Shasura has alluded tonight and in previous commission hearings that this is his 3rd commission. As an observer of commissions and as a testifier and as somebody that has followed the goings-on of charter revision commissions closely, this is my 8th commission. And I can tell you the one common denominator among those commissions, and that's commissions appointed by 4 different mayors studying a wide variety of different issues, is that there's a tremendous desire to defer to the staff. And it makes sense. They put in the work, and the thinking is, who am I to question the staff? You're the commissioners. So I don't think you should have any qualms about questioning the staff. Now, there's some tremendous work on this, particularly on the budgetary front. And I think it's certainly worthy of inclusion in terms of your ultimate proposals in November. The one issue that I have to take with this report, and the one aspect of this that I hope you will not listen to them on, basically, at least at this point, is the fact that there's not a single proposal that has anything to do with electoral reform. The recommendation of the staff is to keep this for future commissions. Now, the issue of nonpartisan elections, which is where most of my efforts in communicating with you have been focused, that issue has been studied by charter revision commissions in 1998, 1999, 2001, 2002, 2003, 2010, and 2019. And in 2019, that was a 2-year commission. And additionally, the change that I'm suggesting making, which is just emulate what we do in special elections in this city, we've had 30 years of a track record to see how they've worked out in this city. So I really think if you don't put that question on the ballot, a question, and give us the right to choose whether we want nonpartisan elections, I really think it defies any sort of logic or explanation. How much more study do we need? We have 20 years worth of commission hearings and 30 years worth of seeing how it's worked in New York City. So I understand while some of you may have policy preferences that don't include nonpartisan elections for whatever reason, those of us that are independents in this city, those of us that have been treated like second-class citizens, those of us that are forced to pay the taxes to administer elections that we can't even vote in, we deserve the right to vote for ourselves whether we want a different direction in this city. Please put that on the ballot. Now, if nonpartisan elections, because of the inclusion of ranked choice voting, is something that is too crazy to be put on the ballot this year, I would appreciate it if you directed in your final report what specifically you think needs more study, because the fact that I've heard commission after commission say this issue needs more study, this issue needs more study, even though not one of the experts that I recommended that you call has so far been called for a witness and can answer any question that you have on this, I really think the public would appreciate, I certainly would, a little bit of guidance as to what specifically you think needs more studying. But even if you disregard all that, my proposal about giving candidates an option of not filing petitions, of just using a filing fee, as is done in many states and many municipalities around the country, how can that need more study? It's not an academic question. It's a question of values. Should candidates be able to get on the ballot without going through the onerous ballot access process? So I appreciate the staff's work. They did a great job. I would just hope that you would include at least something related to electoral reform, whether it's nonpartisan elections or filing fees in lieu of ballot access petitioning. Give us something that shows that the frustrated minority of voters in the city are at least being heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Okay, Stephanie.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Okay. I'm in agreement with all the previous speakers who so eloquently stated their stance on the sanctuary city referendum. I'm a born and raised Queens, New Yorker. I'm a product of the New York City public school system. I'm a graduate of CUNY and SUNY schools. I speak tonight as the mother of 3 young girls. I ask that the sanctuary city referendum appear on the new November ballot so the voice of New Yorkers is heard. I love the city I grew up in, and I want that version of New York back. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Maria Denzillo.
Hi, good evening. I'm just starting the video. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Hi. Good evening to the chair and members of the commission. I just want to, before I give my comments on what I want to testify on tonight, I just want to say that I strongly agree with Mr. Moreno's request to put nonpartisan elections on the ballot. I think it would be great to franchise independent voters in New York City, so I strongly support that. My name is Maria Danzel. I'm Executive Director of the Pro Taxpayer, Pro Public Safety, Pro Government Reform grassroots group, One City Rising. I testified at a hearing last week about the need for charter reform to address the community board system. And I appreciate the chair's comments that that will be something that you are taking in consideration. But today I'm going in a different direction, and I want to testify on a different matter, which is the need to require job qualifications for certain financial positions in city government. We would like to request the commission to consider a charter reform that would require the controller in particular to have an advanced degree in finance or a law degree and related experience as a prerequisite to assuming the job of controller. New York City is the 10th largest economy in the world, and yet our chief financial officer, our controller, has no financial background. Our district attorney, our attorney general, they must have a law degree to be to hold their offices. It is unconscionable that we do not require the controller to have experience suitable for that very important position. Remember, the controller is responsible for overseeing our public employee pension system, and it is incredibly unfair to our valued union workers to have someone overseeing their money who does not have a financial background to ensure that their assets are properly protected. The second change we wish to see is a significant tightening up of the conflict of interest laws to make sure there is a strong and bright line between the important job that the controller does, namely overseeing the many contracts New York City has with service providers and not-for-profits, and his personal relationships and the personal relationships of the members of his family with those same contractors. As part of the charter revision that we're requesting, the charter should be amended to ensure that the controller has no say in who gets appointed to New York City's Conflict of Interest Board. Under current rules, he makes one appointment to the board. This is laughable. The controller should have no say whatsoever in who gets appointed to a board that is overseeing whether he has a conflict of interest in the 10th largest economy in the world. We have many reasons for needing this, and first and most important is the fact that our current controller, according to published reports, shows a dismal performance, losses in pension value in his first year, which have been reported to be the largest one-year loss in the history of the pension system. As for the conflicts of interest issue, our current controller is married to the chief lobbyist for a group called Nonprofit New York, which is the largest umbrella group for not-for-profits in the city and perhaps even in the country. His wife is a registered lobbyist, and yet the Conflicts of Interest Board has decided there is no conflict, even though it is clearly a conflict, or at very least has the appearance of a conflict of interest. I am a lawyer. I ran a conflict policy for decades. This is a conflict of interest. We need a controller who is going to take his job in ensuring sound footing for New York City's finances as his priority. There are billions and billions of dollars that are flowing from New York City's taxpayers to these not-for-profits. One example is the enormous amount of money flowing to service providers attending to our homeless population, including the many large corporate interests who are awarded massive financial contracts. It is critical that this money is managed to actually help the people who need help in our city. In 2025, we are looking at a budget of close to $4 billion, which is almost double the 2023 amount of $2.1 billion. We must have our finances managed by someone who does not have a conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict of interest, so that those who are working with the city are properly managed and held accountable to ensure that the people who need our services and our help the most are receiving the services they need and deserve. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Special Hagan.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you for having me. I was a former EEO officer at SBS from 2004 to 2007. And it's disheartening to see that the same problems persist for the MWBE program as they did then in 2004 through 2007. The MWBE program has been plagued by persistent corruption and political posturing since its inception in 1988. The program has had the same bureaucratic leadership collecting very high salaries that has been hamstringed by the law and by pandering under various mayoral administrations. With that said, substantive change requires that the status quo be confronted. For the past 36 years, the governing executive orders and city charter have lacked any substantive enforcement mechanisms. Specifically, there are no penalties for contractors and/or commissioners who fail to adhere to the mandates of the program. And the commissioners report to the mayor. So sometimes the commissioners are actually hamstringed by the mayor. And I have seen that as well. So with that said, I recommend the following amendments to the charter. Commissioners at each agency should receive performance evaluations that, amongst other things, rate for their adherence to MWBE goals. And if they fail to comply, they should be fired. Second, better monitoring of the program. There are tons of MWBE participants that were fronted by people of color and/or women so that they could get into the program. If in fact it's discovered through investigation that this has taken place, these businesses and any iterations or associations with these businesses should be banned for life from doing business with the city. And then lastly, the enforcement of these various changes really needs to be consistent and even-handed. It was my experience in observation over the years. I'm still an employment discrimination attorney all these years later, that basically there was just a lot of politics involved with enforcement of these various provisions. If this contractor was in favor of the mayor, they didn't get the penalties. If they weren't, then the penalties were brought down. So those are my issues with the current administration of the program. It's nice that it's being centralized, but centralization without any real enforcement really means much of nothing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Onyx?
Yes, hi. Do you guys hear me?
Yes, and can you just tell us your name?
Yes, it's Oneximo Feliz.
Just spell it for me.
Sure, it's Oneximo, and the last name is Feliz, Feliz, like Feliz
Thank you.
Navidad.
Thank you.
First of all, I would like to thank you guys for taking the opportunity to hear us, the city people, and I'm going to keep it simple and sweet. The reason I'm here is just to testify in regards to the sanctuary city. Following everybody else, I would like to see this on the ballot this coming November. I think as New Yorkers, we should have a voice and decide if we want to keep this or not. I think it's time for put an end to this circus that's going on in the city of New York. And also, I agree, and I wanted to say my second thing was following Mrs. Danzillo. I think the controller that we have, or any controller that would have in the future, must have some financial background before giving money. You wouldn't give your cash to the person on the corner of the street. You want to give it to somebody who has some financial acumen. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any additional members of the public here who would like to testify? Do we have any additional members on Zoom who would like to testify? Okay, commissioners, final comments before we close for the evening. And I know we'll be back at it tomorrow night in my home borough. No? Okay.
Once again, I just want to thank everyone for coming out to share their thoughts and their processes to this board. We will take everything into consideration, and we do appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to share with us this evening.
Thank you. And again, thank
Yes,
you
thank
to
you.
DDC for hosting
Okay.
us. Thank you for everyone's testimony. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say again, thank you to all of you for coming out, but it's very important for us to continue to spread the word in the community, in your districts. Come out to these hearings. Very important, because just like tonight, I said, oh, I got an education from MNW, say, help me, I'm sorry.
MWBE.
MWBE. MWBE, I got an education, and a lot of people don't know about MWBE. So tell people to come out and to these hearings. It's very important. And again, thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll see you in Brooklyn. Motion to adjourn. Motion, all in favor? Aye. Have a good evening. Thank you.